Hello friends. This is the first part of the review for 1999 and today in issue. Terrifying riot of nature and the possible end of the world. Great movies and computer games. Unforgettable events from the world of culture. The flourishing of pop music in Russia. Impressive sports victories. War and other tragic events in Russia. The change of power and the resignation of the president, as well as many other incredible events from around the world, right now. Friends, our time machine works on your likes, comments and subscriptions. Thank you for not forgetting to support us. Mankind joyfully greeted the last year of the century with loud salutes and colorful fireworks, although the year immediately set the vector for troubles and cataclysms. A series of catastrophic earthquakes in the world. It all started with Colombia. The January 1999 earthquake destroyed many houses, over 700 people died and more than 3,000 were injured. Then, in the midst of the holiday season, a devastating 7.5 Richter earthquake struck Turkey. More than 18,000 dead. There is general mourning in the country. People are buried without identification in mass graves in order to prevent an epidemic due to the terrible heat of plus 40 degrees Celsius. Further, the earth shakes already in neighboring Greece. Again, massive destruction and casualties. No sooner had the world come to its senses from the latest tragedies, a new earthquake, even stronger, in Taiwan. Tremors at the epicenter reached 7.8 points. Many see these troubles as a warning to humanity. It is not known where the oracles come from and predict the end of the world in the year 2000. Belief in these predictions is reinforced by awakened volcanoes in the Philippines and Ecuador. People have always believed in the supernatural, admired the mysterious secrets and incomprehensible phenomena of nature. In ancient times, solar eclipses plunged people into horror, and the clergy skillfully used human ignorance for their, not always noble, goals. As science flourished, solar eclipses ceased to frighten earthlings. On the contrary, everyone wanted to observe the moment the moon covered the sun and capture these historical moments on a camera or videotape. On August 11th, Europe was expecting a solar eclipse. Scientists have calculated everything in detail and suggested how many percent of the sun's light will be seen by people and for how long it will be closed in different countries. The European powers should have witnessed an eclipse of 95%, but in Romania, the sun will be completely covered by the moon. Tourists from all over the world came to the homeland of Count Dracula. On August 11, 1999, as predicted by scientists, the eclipse occurred, which pleased the population of European countries on average about 2 minutes. In Bucharest, residents were a little more happy than others, 2 minutes 23 seconds. The end of the world, fortunately, did not happen. Nature is raging, and life goes on as usual. New people are born. Not only tragic but also joyful events take place. On October 12, 1999, the 6 billionth inhabitant of the Earth, Adnan Mavich, was born in Sarajevo. The kid shouted loudly during the photographing ceremony and did not even realize that now his name is forever inscribed in the history of mankind. Belgium, the very center of Europe. The huge scandal with the Coca-Cola company, which broke out at the wrong time for the manufacturer of the world-famous drink, seriously weakened the giant's position in the market and strengthened the influence of its main competitor, PepsiCo. All that cheese boron flared up due to the mass poisoning of young Belgian schoolgirls with Coca-Cola. The press immediately inflated a grandiose scandal. Many examinations confirmed the presence of harmful impurities in the composition. European countries are racing to close the sales of the popular drink. The company's apologies for the mistakes in organizing production control failed to return the former glory in sales. As a result, the reputation of Coca-Cola in Europe tarnished and several years ahead for its restoration. From the short important news of the year, we cannot but mention the events that took place in good old Mother Europe. The countries of the European Union have introduced a new currency for the first time, the euro. Euro banknotes will appear later, but the trial balloon for the single currency has already been launched. The British Parliament, at the request of Prime Minister Tony Blair, overturned the country's oldest law, which was nearly 800 years old. For the upper house of the British Parliament, changing this law was a real revolutionary decision. In 1999, The lords were deprived of the right to inherit the chair in the upper house of parliament by birthright. As the English newspapers wrote, finally, the country is finished with the remnants of feudalism. In the creative industry, in the world of fashion, computer games, music, film and television, life was in full swing almost as well as in the 98th, rich in talented masterpieces. On September 21st, a real cinematic hit of the late 90s, the fantastic action movie, The Matrix, with Keanu Reeves in the title role, is released on the world's screens. An action-packed story about the world of the future and machines that control people. Excellent cast, unique special effects, freeze frame, freeze, and bullet flight effect did not leave the audience indifferent. The Matrix became one of the leaders in commercial rental in 1999, with a budget of $63 million, raising as a result $400 million more, which you will agree is a very good result. The most anticipated film of the year was the long-awaited premiere of the new movie Star Wars. Episode 1. The Phantom Menace, an epic movie saga by George Lucas. Since the advertising campaign of the tape was carried out brightly and on a large scale, the audience waited impatiently for the film and immediately poured into cinemas. Not all expectations from the picture came true, but the real fans of the franchise were delighted. The Queen of Naboo, little Anakin Skywalker, the Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon and their heroic adventures were liked by many. The huge budget of $115 million invested in the production of the fantastic creation of Lucas fully paid off. The total gross was $924 million, and the film became the most successful at the commercial box office in 1999. In Russia this year, a lot of new films were also presented to the audience, among which we note the film by Denis Yevstyev Mom, and the film by Stanislav Govorukhin, Voroshilovsky Shooter. Let the critics evaluate the cultural value of the films. Real fans of cinema rejoiced. First of all, the return to the screen of the great Russian actors, Nona Mordyukova and Mikhail Ulyanov. For the gaming industry, the year turned out to be fruitful and rich in new items. We want to focus on a few games that have largely set the vector for the development of popular genres of computer games. The first novelty, the masterpiece, Silent Hill, a game in the genre of survival horror, released on the Sony platform, gave birth to a large series of games of the same name. The fictional American city of Silent Hill is not calm. The main character of the story, Harry Mason, immediately understands this: the oppressive atmosphere, gray fog, incomprehensible snow. Harry begins his search for his mysteriously missing daughter and faces dire monsters. Critics and players praised the game itself, the effects, the plot, and the fantasy of the developers. Silent Hill entered the collection of the best games of the PlayStation platform. Counter-Strike multiplayer first-person shooter instantly won the hearts of players around the world. The first version of the game was released on the Windows platform as a modification for the Half-Life game in 1999. Dynamic battles between two teams of players on different maps appealed to fans of the genre. The choice of weapons, cards, the ability to change battle tactics and, most importantly, team spirit and competitive excitement, these are the main components of the developers' success. Counter-Strike is a very well-known and beloved game by many, over which time has practically no power. Music and show business. The Russian show business, like a conveyor belt, produces packs of music pop groups that churn out hits with cosmic speed. 1999 was the year of birth of such popular bands as Demo, Virus, 140 Beats Per Minute, Turbomoda, and of course, Tattoo. Numerous visitors to discos and nightclubs throughout the former Soviet Union went crazy over the Sun in Hands, and together raised their hands up at the request of the lead singer of the Virus group. Many thanks to everyone who supports our channel, your subscriptions, comments and thumbs up, the best rating for us. Now let's talk about the sad events of 1999. War in Yugoslavia, rather, the bombing of Yugoslavia. The NATO military bloc, for the first time in its history, violating its own charter, without coordinating the operation with the UN, subjected military and industrial facilities of an independent state to massive bombing strikes. Yugoslavia, as a union state, began to experience difficulties from the beginning of 1991, when the parade of sovereignties began and 4 republics left the country: Croatia, Slovenia, Bosnia and Herzegovina and Macedonia. The country was shocked by constant interethnic military conflicts and, according to the alliance, the ethnic cleansing of the Albanians in Kosovo became the main reason for the NATO military operation. At the time of the tragic events, the Union state included only two republics, Serbia and Montenegro. The countries destroyed infrastructure for a long time threw the country back, both in development and in the standard of living of its citizens. Yugoslavia soon ceased to exist as a state altogether, and the world started talking seriously about how international law is changing towards the strong. The one who is stronger is right. Our time machine stops over Russia, and we see one of the most dramatic periods in the history of the country, a year of political cataclysms, disasters and human tragedies. On August 7, terrorist groups from the territory of the Chechen Republic invaded the Republic of Dagestan. The Second Chechen War began, and active hostilities continued until the end of February 2000. The very same counter-terrorist operation to destroy cells and scattered groups of radical militants lasted almost 10 years, until 2009. After the terrible August, the invasion of Dagestan by militants, the terrible September came. The country was shaken by a series of apartment bombings in Moscow, Buinaksk and Volgodonsk. Numerous victims, confusion and fear in people's hearts. It was a real test for the citizens of Russia. The modern history of the country has not yet known such crimes against innocent people. It was then that everyone learned the meaning of the word terrorism, who the Wahhabis are and what RDX is. Tragic pages of the country's history, over which time has no power. People need to remember them in order to prevent similar tragedies in the future. Dramatic events in the country took place against the backdrop of a crisis in the power system in Russia. The opposition of various political groups of influence to President Boris Yeltsin, constant conflicts between the executive and legislative branches of power could not lead to anything good. The country is still reeling from the 1998 default, and premium ERI changed like a kaleidoscope. The Prime Minister of Russia Yevgeny Primakov was dismissed, and Sergei Stepashin was appointed to his place. In early August, he also left his post. President Boris Yeltsin introduces a new prime minister that no one knows about. This is a native of the special services, Vladimir Putin. Yeltsin calls him his successor. It is Vladimir Putin who will have to lead the country out of a protracted crisis, establish constitutional order in the North Caucasus and, as history has shown, lead a huge country for more than 20 years. Now let's talk about sporting events. Football sports news of the year is discussed everywhere, in newspapers, on the streets, on public transport, on the internet. After 3 failures in the qualifying tournament of the European Championship, the Russian national team has a new head coach, Oleg Romantsev. From the first games of the team under the guidance of a mentor, it became clear that the national team would position the fast Spartak football, and the national football club Spartak would become the basis of the team. Moscow. In the remaining games, we only need victories. And the national team just flies on the wings to success. Andorra and Armenia were defeated. And here is the main meeting for Oleg Ivanovich and the national team. The present moment of truth. The match of the century in France, with the world champions, the French, at the legendary Stade de France. Nobody believed in Russian guys, but a miracle happened. In a historic match, crazy on the intensity of passions. Ours defeat the French 3-2. The striker of the St. Petersburg Zenit, Alexander Sergeevich, becomes the hero. Russia is jubilant. Ahead is the last, home match, with Ukraine. We only need victory. The overcrowded Luzhniki Stadium explodes with shouts of joy and delight. At the 75th minute of the meeting, Valery Karpin, now the head coach of the national team, takes Russia ahead. Ours succeeds. The coveted ticket to the European Championship is already very close, as a ridiculous blow towards our goal changes everything in a matter of seconds. The goalkeeper of the Russian national team Alexander Filomonov commits a fatal mistake and puts an end to his football career.
Боже мой!
И Филимонов забрасывает мяч в свои ворота.
1-1 in the match. Russia is not going to the European Championship. The 1999 national team never became a real legend. In the same year, the living legend of athletics, Olympic champion, 6-time world champion in pole vaulting, Sergei Bubka, was unveiled a lifetime monument on August 29 in Donetsk. The entire sports world congratulates the hero and recalls his historic victories in the national team of the Soviet Union and the national team of Ukraine. Russian fans more than ever expected new victories from our athletes in 1999, and finally they waited. The sensation in the favorite sport of President Boris Yeltsin happened on June 3, 1999. Finally, our compatriot, 25-year-old tennis player, Yevgeny Kafelnikov is the first in the world ranking of the year. The first racket of the world did not hide his sincere joy and gratitude to his main competitor, American tennis player Pete Sampras. It was with the triumph of Kafelnikov that tennis began to develop actively in Russia. The enormous popularity of Kafelnikov is still alive, and Yevgeny, as an outstanding athlete, remains a true legend today. He is rightfully on the first lines in the victorious annals of Russian tennis in the history of this sport. And let the years pass, Yevgeny's victory does not age, because for admirers of his talent, Kafelnikov in tennis, like Pushkin in literature, is our everything. The most notable cultural event of the year is the 200th anniversary of the great Russian poet and classic Alexander Sergeevich Pushkin. Preparations for the anniversary were carried out thoroughly. The posters of the festive events were pleasing to the eye. The audience admired all kinds of exhibitions, plunged with interest into the abyss of lectures on the life and work of the poet, enjoyed concerts and theatrical performances based on his works. The creative part was not limited. Serious funds have been allocated for something that future generations will be proud of. On the occasion of the poet's jubilee, quite a few Pushkin places were restored, even those that Pushkin visited in passing during his lifetime. The large-scale information campaign of the anniversary on television surpassed all imaginable and inconceivable informational possibilities of that time. I have erected a monument not made by hands. The folk path will not grow to it. Quote. These were the words prophetically correctly spoken by the classic. The cherry on the cake was a concert on Red Square. The brilliant orchestra of the Mariinsky Theater under the direction of Valery Gergiev and the Golden Voices of Russia and the World became the decoration and finale of the anniversary celebrations. Of the world's cultural events of the year, the most striking and resonant was a large concert in Germany at the Brandenburg Gate. A large-scale musical event was dedicated to the 10th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, which, after the end of the Second World War, divided people, families and fates of the citizens of Germany and the GDR for many years. The main stars of the concert were the Scorpions soloist Klaus Meine and the great Russian conductor Mstislav Rostropovich. The main song of all Santa Clauses and Snow Maidens of our country, called New Year, was sung by the Disco Crash group at the end of 1999. Did not immediately gain much success, but many lines of the future superhit immediately became prophetic. New Year is rushing to us, soon everything will happen, and it happened. On December 31st, President Boris Yeltsin, in his New Year's address to citizens, asked everyone for forgiveness, wished everyone happiness and resigned.
Сегодня, в последний день уходящего века, я ухожу в отставку.
The Russians greeted the new century and the new 2000 year with hope for the best, but the lines of the song, Disco Crashes, made you think. What dreams will come true, that they will deceive us again, they will not give anything, what events will take place in 2000, we will recall in next issues, and now we will summarize the results of the first part of the 99-year survey. This year turned out to be even more controversial than the 98th, a huge number of tragic events and catastrophes, bizarrely mixed with creative flourishing in various fields of culture. At one point you could visit an excellent concert and immediately face the horrors of terror, and as the saying goes, God forbid you live in an era of change, and the 90s were obviously an era of significant changes. In the next video we will tell you about the events of 1999 that were not included in this issue. So as not to miss new videos, subscribe to the channel, write any comment and put your thumbs up, this will greatly help the development of the channel. See you soon, friends.